This episode is brought to you by HonApps.com. For a custom branded iPhone and Android mobile app for your haunted attraction, be sure to visit HonApps.com.
What's up, Haunters Digest? I'm Bud Stross, one of the co-owners of the Dent Schoolhouse. I figured while we're here, let's take a look. Come on inside. What we got here is where everyone starts. It is the playground to the school. As you can see, there's kids playing, there's obviously a girl getting tug-of-warred by two skeletons, and usually the actors in here, there's a couple children kind of running around having fun, getting people geared up to go inside the schoolhouse. A bus driver, he'll actually fling that open and scare the bejesus out of them. It's also got an air horn built into it, so we can fire that whenever we want.
Where's your bus pass? Why are you late?
Nurse's station, and it's a little dark just because this is the only part of the house that doesn't have an overall ambient hit, because we've actually got bad electrical, so it's kind of going. See, we've got our child puking, obviously, a little sick there. You can kind of see all the different knickknacks that our nurses accumulated through the years. So in here we've got our first classroom. Kind of weird, bizarre part about it is we actually do utilize some of the original chalkboards too. Like that is an original chalkboard. But cool thing about this, we've obviously got a drop window, so we have a student that's kind of been ingrained inside the school. We do have a desk that's possessed, looks kind of ghostly, starts moving across, and then our young kid who just can't take his homework anymore starts jabbing himself with his pen. And you go down just a locker hallway, and there's usually an actress inside the lockers here that starts kind of grabbing out. Kind of fun. It's strobe lit, so it's very disorienting, and they usually don't see her coming out reaching, so really cool. And then we've got a fun little illusion here. It kind of looks like we are actually projecting. The projector here actually has a nice little flicker light, and we have a big screen TV behind the wall, and it's playing some 1950s health video. So while they're distracted, obviously, comes the beauty of another drop window. And of course, we've got a nice little hallway of janitor and school supplies, which then brings us into another classroom. And this is the history classroom. And obviously, as you can see, the chalkboard is missing because it is a drop. So, but then of course we have our teacher over there that's kind of going back and forth. And there's so much to look at in these rooms. That's kind of why we do the detail, is so they're almost distracted by everything that's going on, which allows for our actors to get a better scare. Then through here you've got the library, and the nice thing about these walls, they're actually animated with pneumatics, so they actually start coming down and crashing on you. So it looks like the ball or the cases are falling on you. And then, of course, we have our preschool of the school, because back in the day they pretty much had K through 12 in this building. So you can kind of check out got our very large nursery cage that obviously has a child and maybe a nice play toy that's waiting to come up and say hello. Big thing that Josh wanted to make sure that, when you go from scene to scene, is that everything is very consistent and matching with the theme, and that's kind of a nice thing. You need hallways, so you've got hallways in buildings, so that's kind of the one thing we wanted to make it just feel like you are walking through a school and you're not walking through an attraction. And here is our art classroom. Kind of see what's going on here, some demented paintings, and obviously we have our teacher that just can't take it anymore and she's kind of freaking out. And obviously usually there's a student in here too that's just going to town with some type of masterpiece. Yeah, and that's one of the biggest questions. Everyone's like, how do you keep, especially haunt owners, how do you keep all your detail in one place from people pocketing them? Believe it or not, some of our stuff is freestanding and they never get touched because there's just so much. They're almost like overwhelmed, like, you know, pointing around. Some of our stuff is glued down, and some of our stuff is wired. You can see some very small wires that keep them either to the wood or the fabric or whatever they're kind of attached to. So, and then you walk into the stairwell of the schoolhouse, and you can see that one of our teachers just couldn't take it, so she took her own life. And then we go into the infamous Hell's Basement, which of course goes with the legend of Charlie. As you come into the basement, this is all brand new for this year. Last year this was all behind the scenes. It was storage. We're going to be going through the previous makeup room. We wanted to make sure that Dent could get the largest and most impactful of the basement because everyone wants to see the basement. That's where all the stuff happened. And as you can see, Charlie's not only going for the kids, he's also going for the parents. And you can kind of see he's just kind of letting them dry out right now. And you see in here we've got our boiler room. Our boilers have seen better days, definitely have some age to them. This was really cool. When we went through the HauntCon convention, it was a nice simple prop that our guys put together, but it looks like bad electric. The wires actually, when they hit the fence and hit that start to spark, so it looks like we have some really bad electric in Dent.
Now, how do you get out of fire codes and everything?
They're all grounded and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, sparks coming off anything else?
Just like a spark cage, same concept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not heavy sparks,
Oh.
but enough you were like, whoa, that's hitting that fence, I'm not going to touch that. And then in the off season, the guys are searching the areas for props, natural decor, they're going through pawn shop, I mean, anything you name it. And as you can see, we've got all these really cool details that kind of fit the basement. And some of this stuff is actually from the schoolhouse too. Like we've got some of the old heaters that used to be in some of the classrooms down here, like Charlie took apart to fix. But lots of stuff going on. And the cool thing too is we like to use natural lighting to kind of bring that real element, and we have these old fluorescent tubes that give the flicker effect. And they're actually the LED ones that you can buy as a haunt owner. Perfect. Perfect for, you know, grungy basement look.
Sticks and stones will break your bones, but they'll never find your body. Leave him alone! That's my lunch! Don't you be eyeballing my lunch now!
And then we really wanted to play up the sadistic, just that grunge of what was Charlie actually doing. You never got to see dead children. Well, you do this year. He has been taking care of business and been pinning them up. And as you can see, obviously, he takes masters in his work, and you can actually see some of the children that didn't make it through. And on the other side of the cage, you're actually going to interact with one of the kids who's just been down here, and he is just so deranged and trying to get out. But I can't blame him either. And then in here, this is going to be very interactive, which is cool. Everyone comes to Dent looking for Charlie. It's what they do now. So you actually get to watch Charlie kill someone in front of you. Very cool. He comes out. Obviously, he's got his arsenal of weaponry. And right there, he will literally strangle, kill, it depends on his mood, a student right in front of you. So very cool, very graphic, but it's what the audience wants. Now this is a room to when I say we are ate up with detail and realism. Because, as you can see, our floor has been busted out. Josh and Adam took a sledge to it and went to town so we could actually make it look like Charlie just didn't have time. He needed more space to throw bodies, and that's what he's been doing. So all the pipes actually have real rust paint on them as well, so we went high detail on that as well. I think there's over 2,000 cockroaches in the basement as well. Fun fact.
Guy down here! Yeah, come here. Let me get a good look at you.
here, this is the revamp of Charlie's bedroom. Really kind of freaky, really just grungy. You can kind of see his side of death, and then you can kind of see his personal side. Business, pleasure. And of course you have his bedroom with, I guess, a girl that just didn't make it. Or maybe she did. This is where this is our one Universal Studios room. Obviously people love big monsters, they love big effects, and we get to the point to where we have such a flow that you need something that ooh and ahs, and this is definitely this room. The room is 100% flooded. When the theatrical lights are on and the water's running, it's busting out of the pipes, electrical shooting out, and obviously Charlie's been throwing the bodies down in the sewer line and something's been feeding on them. And that's where a 9-foot monster with a built-in chainsaw holding a body comes rushing out in the water at you. Nice thing too is on here we've got things called butt kickers. So when he comes out, this whole thing starts to shake. So everything's full interactive. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of scares. There's different pop-ups going on here, so it's a very visual and overwhelming room. Like I always say, when you're at Dent, don't trust anything on the walls because it could be a drop, it could be a prop, it could be animated. Obviously this guy up here just got sliced in half by our nice saw. We do have an actress that's in here for the buzz saw getting sawed up, and we usually have a shop class teacher as well. Then of course you've got that old style bathroom, always that kind of freaky one that's right by the gym class or down in the basement. I know I had one at my high school, and that's kind of what they tried to emulate here. Neat thing about these two is these can be animated too. They can press a button. It's like they shut.
Like the hand out of the toilet.
Yeah, it starts moving. It's like it's the swirly of death. And this is kind of cool. This is a real easy way to get a scare. It's almost like cheating, but you know they're getting a preview of what's to come, which is our automotive class. So everyone wants to see through the window. Well, they're not looking up to where you have a sky drop. And that actor can just come out, boom, scares them. So this is still, I think, one of our favorite scenes. It's been up for about 2+ years now. We actually brought a car in from the period, and they just went hog wild on detail. I mean, that's that's a good question. Everyone's like, how did you get in here? We actually had to bust out this side wall, and we actually cut open into the school so we could bring it in. Because everyone's like, man, I guess you just brought it right in here. No, this is all fake. This is all finished. But yeah, we actually busted down some walls over there. And there's a lot that goes on here too. There's obviously a guy that comes flying. I keep saying obviously. I guess it's not obvious since I'm telling you. But some guy doing an oil change come flying at you. We have a spark fence over here for our actor. And then even this kind of contraption comes flying down on the barrel. And the car's running too.
What now, one by one, you all suffer the same fate. This is your last ride. Gaze at its beauty as you will slowly die. And one by one, it's your last cruise.
Our wall height, 10 to 12.
10 to 12.
And the reason, and you can kind of see where we've kind of put the trim, that's where the first standard wall stops. That's where we used to have it. When we went up that extra height, it really encloses you in, and you don't realize that you're not, you're kind of in this warehouse setting. No, you feel like you're in a room. You feel smaller. You almost feel like a kid, which is kind of cool. This is a really cool effect too. We actually cut open the lockers, and then the actor is actually behind it. So when you're just coming along, they can open it up and come straight out at you and go right back in. It's kind of a different version of a pop or a drop. Then of course, I don't know if you guys smelled that, but we've got our cafeteria here. Decided to go real nice and gory. We've got 4-star cooking going on here. A lot of animation too. Everything from, of course, up here. These are actually moving due to air. This guy has just been severed, so his leg's kicking. A lot of different lighting going on, and of course this guy's just been gutted, and so he kicks and flails and spits, along with, of course, one of our chefs in here cooking up something tasty.
So how long does it take you to build and design a room?
You know,
Like something like this, what was your build-out time on this?
it all depends. I mean, Josh and the crew work on this year-round, so it depends on the detail that goes in. Obviously, you can see there's several washes. There's the expansion foam in here that's then painted because you're getting that kind of detail. So the initial setup's not bad. It's when you start putting all that time and effort in to make it really become real. So you'll see some rooms too later on where we've actually got that kind of cement texture, and you have to sit there and spray the walls. And I mean, that takes some time, but it's all beneficial for the end product. And just even another side note too, we are so ate up that we even have power switches just because a room would have power switches. Yeah. Don't do anything, but they're just there for scenic element.
And motion detectors.
Yeah, we use, for different props, we use everything from motion detectors to infrared to even the good old push pads.
Classmates! Time for the nightly gut!
And then, of course, the eatery, the cafeteria. And of course, we've got our cafeteria worker dishing out some food there. Of course, different seating, kind of showing off our Dent pride up top there.
You know, they say if they find a hair in the food, I don't know where they would get a crazy idea like that. That's just ridiculous.
This is all kind of new this year too. We decided to bring out some more lockers too, just because you would have more lockers in a school. We're using obviously the vacuform to kind of bring that old school look back with the cinder block walls. Of course, our prom contestants there. This is 100% brand new this year. Last year, we had our auditorium. It was earlier. It was actually where that big monster coming out of the wall was. People were so upset that we took it down because it was just a neat scene that we figured we got to bring it back. So this is real cool. We've got, we're kind of playing on the ghosts. These ghosts kind of float around at night, really ghostly. Obviously, you've got kids ready to see the show. And there is an actor in here that's a director, and he's ready to lay it into you because you don't know your lines. Now you're kind of starting to get deeper into the schoolhouse, into the basement. Nice thing, one of these is a drop. The bricks come flying down, so you can get a double utilization of your actor.
Come here! I know a shortcut!
And this is really cool. A lot goes on in here. There's actually smoke coming out of the pipes, like it's really hot in here. We've got obviously the bad electric shooting out of the breakers. We've got our monster here that's also kind of been feeding on those body parts that ends up throwing this at you, comes growling out, which then allows the actor, as a distraction, to come out from one of these shipping boxes. And of course we have leaking water, very visual, very musty, kind of when you walk in. Everybody needs clowns. Everybody wants clowns. There's always that phobia out there. And for us to integrate that into the story, we took it to the PTA Carnival. Because obviously they wanted to keep the kids' minds off of all the disappearances that were going on. So we try to relive kind of a classic carnival that's going on that our PTA put on. We'll have a PTA mom here that's real over the top, trying to get kids to play the games, do tickets, while obviously we've got a freaky clown running around too. And that's a good transition, the cool effects that everyone kind of looks for in an attraction, like your kind of claustrophobia airbags, which we have right here. Obviously, when these are blown together, we've actually got strobe lights between them, which is really cool effects, especially since they're white, kind of trippy. And then also we have sound effects coming from behind them, so kind of bizarre. And then it doesn't look much right now, because obviously it's turned off, but this is our vortex tunnel that's homemade. We just actually repainted it this year with new UV lights, so it's really trippy, really bright. And everybody looks for one. It's longer than your normal vortex tunnel. So you're kind of going through the backwoods. We always said it was relatives of Charlie, since they just kind of lived in the back here.
There's your bear.
Look what the cat drug in. Couple of stinking old city slickers, what it looks like to me.
Actually, this is one of the final things getting worked on for the season right now. So they think they're scot-free. They can even see the ending, kind of going through the back here. But little do they know, as of course a crowd favorite, the chainsaw.
touch you! Ah!
So right when they get around here, they're like, well, I can see the exit. Well, they don't see the chainsaw. Comes busting out and, of course, pushes them forward. We even do have misters in here, too, that create a wet fog, which is neat, at least on not-so-cold nights. Kind of gets you a little wet. Which then shoots you out because, obviously, they come running and screaming. And they get to go straight to Detention Hall. So now we're outside of Detention Hall. It's our side attraction that's included with every ticket of the Dent Schoolhouse. It's kind of neat. It's a freak-out maze, high fog, strobe lights, intense acting, and it's got a neat theme. We decided to go straight, just throw out the detention, the schoolhouse theme, and we went with an infection, a disease. So you're getting to go through this safe zone, this military area that has zombies. Zombies are hot, and our zombies are crazy. So we'll take a look at it. So obviously they'll be waiting in line. We've got still some more military signs and stuff to put up here. You can kind of see where they brought in supplies. You've got army crates, barrels, everything kind of planted up. There's going to be a very militarized presence out front. I think every once in a while, probably every hour, there's going to be a zombie outbreak to where the military have to physically take one down in front of the line. Kind of very interactive. It's kind of got its own shtick. And then once you've been scanned for infection and someone in your group has infection, you are thrown inside with the other infected. And that's where we'll go now.
So what made you go from the school to just now military?
You know, that's a good question. Obviously the name is Detention Hall, and we went with, bad students last year. And to be honest, I don't think it translated well. Once you consider going through Dent, you see the Hollywood detail and the Hollywood special effects. People were expecting that with Detention Hall. Well, it's nothing like that. Detention Hall is its own entity, and to break away from that and to kind of make it its own thing, its own identity, I think is going to really help with the audience, and it's going to be a lot more fun. I mean, zombies are a lot of fun. Everybody wants to see zombies, and we think we can bring some of the best zombies to life, and you get to, as a customer, come face to face with the Walking Dead just dripping with blood. So it could be a lot of fun. So take a look. Obviously, it's not a haunted house, it's a haunted maze. But we do have a black claustrophobia, so you're kind of going through that decontamination zone. What we did this year is we actually added the camo netting so you have no line of sight to cheat. You've got heavy fog, you've got heavy lighting, and you've got actors who are heavy on the acting. We also added this year some black out walls to the maze. There's actually 3 sections. Last year you could see all the way through with this kind of chain link jail bar. Now you can't. It's actually a lot more trippy. It's harder to find your way out. And the cool thing is this maze could last up to 45 plus minutes. It depends on how long our actors want to keep you in here. So you can have a lot of fun. It's the more people that are in a maze, the more exciting it gets because everyone's trying to figure out a way to get out. So that's the hard part. I actually really don't know how to get out of this. But yeah, this used to you could see all the way to the end. But after running it 1 year, we took some advice from our actors and from our clients and customers, and they're like, yeah, it was cool. What else can you do? And we're like, that's really black it out. Now you can't see through. There's no cheating. When I first walked through, once the walls went up, I know the path. The path's really easy if you know it. Your actors will figure it out too. But I came in, it was like, you instinctively want to go the wrong way, the way these walls have set you up. So it's very disorienting, and that's what we want. Obviously, it's not like Dent where you're looking at detail. This is just, you are on a race to find your way out of here. It's kind of a fun little thing to do with family and friends. And of course, there's a chainsaw in here too. So once they realize that, people freak out. Here's a secret. We have the power to keep people in here as long as we want. We installed this, so let's say it's a slow night, maybe like a Sunday, and people are just having fun. We can easily just pop this, shut it, and then they can't get out. Until my actor's like, okay, we've kept them in there 3 hours. I guess we should probably get them out. So then they can go to the actual exit. Music is really loud, plays up the theme. Now, obviously, all the actors are either military in here or have some form of infection and blood and gore. Very graphic. Because we've got to keep up with Hollywood movies. I mean, everyone sees good zombies, and that's what we have to make. We don't have the Night of the Living Dead where they're white and black. No, we've got big things, usually silicone appliances on them, lots of blood. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year. There you go. You survived Detention Hall. Granted, that was just the lights on, but when you turn everything off, I challenge you to try to survive that. The makeup room at Dent's gone through a bunch of different changes. It used to be in the basement, and it had a lot of working spots for makeup artists, but the problem about it is you were kind of the traffic flow for security, for actors, for just about anything during the house. So it was hard to keep everyone wrangled. It's hard to keep it clean since it was so open, and it just wasn't fully efficient. So this year, 2011 at Dent, we decided to take that, put it upstairs, kind of corral everyone in here, which is nice because we've got 6 full working stations, and then we have 3 other stations where actors can do their own makeup, or if we have overflow from artists, we can throw them right into makeup. Another nice thing is we can shut all doors. We have full running water, enough counter space to do whatever we want with. Artists can just throw out, really kind of spread out and have some walking and room. Plus we've got our blood room. In our blood room, since we've got all this nice new walls and paint jobs, we wanted to make sure we kept that as clean as possible and sanitary. So we've got a blood room to where we can just splatter away, make as much mess as we want, and we can sweep it up at the end of the night. So it's kind of cool to see how far it's gone, and we definitely take pride in it. Actors start showing up at about 5:30. We open the house at 7:30 every night, and we do about 50 plus actors a night. So it's within those 2.5 hours, give or take, we're doing 50 plus. And most of our makeup, believe it or not, is grease base or prosthetics, which is, of course, and we do some alcohol. But we used to do airbrush, and I'm just real big. I know you can do detail on that, but I really like getting hands-on. I'm a big fan of using my brush. So, and that's most of my artists do that as well. And most of the airbrushing that we do now is for detailing of like hair and whatnot, because it's just the easiest way to touch up hair and whatnot. But yeah, we still use kind of the grease-based technique. We do a lot of natural foundations now too, that seem to really work with our lighting scheme, which helps save on time. So. For a basic makeup artist for Dent, obviously you're going to need your foundations. We don't do the ghost raccoon kind of look anymore. We got away with that. That's kind of old school Halloween. We really push for that realistic look. So you're obviously going to need some base colors, some foundation colors to match. You're going to need your bloods, a variety too, anything from your squirt bloods to your stage bloods and thick bloods. Even brush-wise, you need your fine detail. Stipple brush, I love Stipple. It's a black sponge where you can really kind of get texture from. And then all your fun colors. One of my favorite, Death Purple. It's great all-around color, and that's obviously an artist's. Everyone has their different colors. That's just mine. Some of mine do all totally different colors. They're like, I like moss green. That's not my color, but I'm a Death Purple guy. But yeah, you need your supporting colors, and then from there, your alcohol base too, if we're using that, especially for heavy sweaters. You need your 99% alcohol, and then you need the very expensive palettes that you can get out there. So kind of a mixture of everything. And then, of course, your glues. I'm a big fan of Prozaid and latex as well. So you always need the liquid latex to do build-up and whatnot. Each station is pretty much self-sufficient. Last year when we were down in the basement, we had problem with power. We had problem with sharing makeup, and it kind of, for the productivity, it really kind of crunched it down. Now each makeup artist gets their own power source, so they can hook up whatever they want. They have their own blow dryer, so if they're using latex, they can speed up the process or anything that's wet. And they also have their own workup station that has all their makeup in it. And they can design it however they want. They've got a top drawer, a bottom drawer where they can put their own items. And of course they've got a nice chair that does the full swivel, so they don't have to be walking around the actor and whatnot. Anything to speed up productivity so we can get our actors cranked out and we can open on time. I think the biggest thing when you're designing your makeup room, you got to figure out flow too. I know I need to crank people out, so I had to make sure there was enough space that I could have people coming in and out. Another thing we really needed was power. Trying to share a blow dryer in order to speed up latex if you're using something like that, or an adhesive that needs to dry quickly, it's not nice sharing. It's just going to slow things down, especially makeup. Make sure all your artists are self-contained with their own makeup, because when you're sharing colors like I did last year, I'd be looking around and I need a black and my actor over here has it. I have to stop, track down my color, and come back, and that just slows the process down. And if you have to keep doing that for every makeup job, you add up the time. That could have been 2 or 3 more monsters I could have cranked out. So yeah, timing wise, everything being self-contained and power are definitely big issues you have to think about. And sufficient lighting too. In here we are jam-packed, as you can see, with lighting, just because you want to see the detail. You want to make sure that that actor, that monster, looks great from all angles. So that's a good question. Obviously, at a haunt setting, you're having every walk of life come in acting for you. And as much as we push hygiene, that doesn't mean that people are showering before or cleaning their face or whatnot. So a lot of times with grease base, what we'll do is we'll take a little dollop, take a little bit of scrape. You could put it on your hand, you could put it on a piece of tile. That way, that makeup is self-contained for that actor. It's not touching someone else's face. And you have to think about that for brushes too. Theoretically, you should clean your brush before you dollop on anyone else. That's why a lot of people, we still use sponges. Sponges are inexpensive. You can do your detail, base, throw it away. That way you're not reusing. And then Q-tips and stuff like that. You just use it and toss it away. It kind of keeps the hygiene level down. And that's another thing too with the makeup room. You got to make sure it's clean, because you're dealing with people's faces, their skin, and a clean work environment is definitely a happy one. Like our silicone masks, we make sure that our actors, the ones that are assigned to those, clean them every night. Nice thing about silicone, you can sit there and you can wash them out with a light detergent, and you just let them out to dry, and they're pretty much self-cleaning at that point. But the actor is in charge every night to clean their own mask. That way you don't have a break of any type of weird fungus or anything, crawling through them. The Dent's position on prosthetics, I think they're needed. You can do flat form, you can do shadows, but you're still having people coming through that want to see that Hollywood special effects. They want to see eyes gouged out, deterioration on the skin, crazy cheekbones. So we still have to use prosthetics. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in my point of view, especially since we stand that we are like reliving a horror movie. So prosthetics can get expensive, especially when you're looking into foam and silicone and whatnot. We buy some, especially the ones that we like, but at the same time, you can make your own as a home haunter, as a yard haunter, as a haunter. They're really inexpensive, especially when you do the good old-fashioned slip cast, where you take a little clay, you make maybe a gash or some wounds, which we do here. You put some Ultracal, some kind of cement, and then from there, once you have your mold, you can just put latex and you can crank them out. We'll buy latex in a 5-gallon drum or a bucket, and then that way it'll last me 1, 2, 3 haunt seasons, just depending on what I'm doing with it. And when I'm not using it as an adhesive or a filler, I can sit there and crank out, 60 wounds pre-painted. So all you have to do come night of the show is a little Prozaid, pop it on, fill it in, you're good to go. And it'll save time and it saves your budget. To get ready for the season here in the makeup room, obviously you have to inventory, you need to know what you need, especially if you have specific makeup artists. I like to give them what they want as much as I can, because everyone has a different flavor, a different something they like. Now we're also getting into silicone too. Some of my makeup artists are really good with silicone applications, so I have to make sure, okay, I need to order that. When you're making prosthetics, it's kind of one of those nice things. You could almost be at home even on the off season and be like, I'm going to watch a horror movie and I'm going to make 15 cuts, because in reality all you need is a blow dryer or just some time to let that latex dry, and boom. Yeah, biggest thing just getting ready too is just buying your supplies. That's usually done a couple weeks beforehand or even months in advance, because obviously that's the last thing you want to do is running around the day before, making sure your makeup room's clean, making sure you have everything you need. Especially there's a lot of great sales out there. You can go to local craft shops and be like, oh cool, I can use that, or I need a bunch of those and they're on sale right now. So it's kind of a year-long process, just kind of working up till your open night. trying to figure out supplies that you need for a haunt, I mean, it can be hard, and I think it changes, year to year. Definitely having a couple of years helps. If you're going into it fresh, I'd buy enough supplies for a week. I would buy enough, but at the same time, you can always buy more. Because obviously most haunts usually starting out aren't open 24/7. They're not open 7 days a week. So that gives you several days to be like, okay, I need this amount of pallets, I need this amount of brushes, and then you can kind of figure from your first 2 weeks, all right, that's about what we're going to be doing. This is how much blood I'm using, and that way from there you can kind of gauge for the entire year. When it comes down to silicone masks and whatnot, there's so much cost that goes into making them that it's easier to purchase. Like when we purchased the Elder, it was just perfect. We wanted to recreate that kind of old man, that grungy janitor, and it was just something that once we saw it, we're like, this is what we envisioned. But there's a couple characters where we went to CFX, and I said, hey, I've got this character I want. This mold's pretty similar. Can you alter it, and can you do this for me? Such as like Huff the Clown. So yeah, it kind of alters. But from when it comes to making like a silicone mask, I leave that to the pros just because the cost that you have to put in to get out, it's not worth it. Now we do make sock masks, which are real nice and inexpensive. It's where you take the stockings, you put that over a bust, you glue it down, and you put prosthetics to it. The best thing is when you have that actor already busted, like Ultra Cow or whatnot. Then once you're done, you can slip it right on, nice skin tight, and it still gets that movement that a latex mask normally wouldn't, since it's so tight. And those are real cheap. You can make those if you've got old prosthetics or old masks that are starting to deteriorate. You pop those on there, you make a character that you want, more specific to your actor, and then boom, you've got something real cheap and very effective for your crowd. We wanted to make sure that obviously costumes could get expensive, and we have some very high money rolling costumes. So this way, when we supply it, it's easier that way. I've got obviously some visions for character. Obviously, Charlie has to be to the T. He's got the jumpsuit, the belt, the weapons. So I wouldn't expect one of my actors to have to go out and pay for all that. I mean, that's something that I would do. And it's nice for costuming too. We can keep track of everything. That way you just don't have people coming in and out, and it makes sure that people aren't stealing things. When everyone's signing it off and you have personnel making sure that that's the costume they should have, and when it stays in-house, that way they can't forget it. Oh man, I forgot that at the house. You got something I wear? No, we got it right here. And that's another thing we do too. We actually clean our costumes every night. We've got a washer and dryer downstairs. We put them through because obviously it can get hot nights. People are sweating through them, so that way I don't have a monster smelling like BO or spreading some weird infection through the house. Separation mainly is so we could keep the makeup doing their thing and you didn't have any stop of flow. Because the first thing that actors do at Dent, they get their makeup. First thing that actors do is they get their costumes. And then what they'll do is they'll go to the left here. We've got an actor waiting area. So they can sit there, they can chill, they can have their break. And then makeup artists will call them in as needed. That way you've got this nice flow. People aren't interrupting our artists. Because obviously once you get in the makeup zone, you just want to start cranking them out, and it halts the process when you have actors coming through. They're talking. This way it's straight business in there. We can get it done, especially when you're on a time crunch, 2.5 hours. You want to get it done. So yeah, this separation was real nice. You didn't have people changing in the makeup room, bumping into our artists. It was just nice and clean. Good question. Obviously, there's programs out there that you can use that are specifically designed for inventorying costumes. You can always use Excel. What we do, it's pretty much all the good old paper and writing system. Personnel has a list of all the characters, list of what they do, and obviously they come in beforehand too, before the season, and we do different changing. Those costumes right behind me there, those have all been tested, and they're all 4 characters that we have for the 2011 season. So we know where they're at, and then we can just easily start dishing them out. And then when they come back to us, they sign them off, boom. That way our costumes come back to us too. The weapons, some haunts make them. All of ours, for the most part, are foam, just because I don't want one of my actors accidentally hitting one of my attendees with, let's say, a large wooden mallet that has actual nails and barbed wire in it. Some of our actors do use some real weaponry, especially when you're out front. The Charlie should have real wrenches because for some reason people like to touch our actors. When you're out front, you're going to be touched. So we kind of need that authentic look. But you got to be careful too when you're having your actors through your house with weapons, because for some reason actors like to hit things. They like to hit walls. They like to make noise. So when it comes down to that, we have specific areas that might have like a metal sheet slated so they can hit the crud out of that and not damage a painted wall that our scenic designer put so much time into and then got chipped the first night. Costumes we get from all over the place. We'll make some in-house. We go to like your thrift stores and Goodwills. We pick up a lot up there because a lot of ours are natural costumes. And then, of course, there's always the haunt industry. You can go to Trans World. You can go to any of the big conventions and pick up some nice things that obviously it's going to be cheaper for you to purchase instead of trying to make and get all the elements. That's a good question. For distressing, obviously, it's easier to distress as much as possible before the show. Let's say you've got a zombie, you can take a Dremel tool. You can take, some people actually literally just dig up the ground and throw the costume in. I'm not much for that. I would rather actually do it all myself. That way I get the natural look I want. So I would Dremel, I would tear realistically, because obviously you've seen the zombies in some haunts or movies where it's just like, let's put some holes here. All right, you look scary. No, you really need to think about how something's going to be distressed. And then when you come to makeup, obviously we've got things like Texas dirt powder, charcoal powder, different powders that you can use that are theatrical, and you can start to put around that'll give that kind of dirt fresh look. Some people, they'll use real dirt too. I know a couple actors. I'm going to go around in your parking lot once I'm done, and as long as that's approved and it looks good and you trust them, I mean, it's a nice way to get a real authentic, quick effect. And then there's some things like Charlie. He's got oil stains, blood stains, and whatnot. We actually add those to the costume by paints and dyes. That way it's consistent, it's always there, and you don't have to worry about putting blood or anything like that on it every night. I've got a bunch of blue containers behind me, and that deals with like overflow masks. I come from a yard hunt background where everyone loves wearing masks. Especially, you put a mask on, you can scare your neighbor and they don't know that it's you. So we obviously still have a lot of latex masks. We've got a lot of overflow costumes. We do a lot of parades and whatnot, so we have things called creature reachers. And obviously, for protection of the costumes and for storage, we've kind of got a system that we just put them all up there and they're kind of out of the way. Well, to ensure that a costume is going to fit an actor, obviously we'll fit them prior. Yeah, we'll do some measurements, and depending on their character, obviously, like our Charlie, he has to have a certain build. Obviously, a larger guy is not going to play Charlie, but yeah, we'll do all the measurements. And when it comes to shoe size, we do have some shoes that we provide, but usually we tell our actors, unless it's a specific character that needs like boots or clown shoes or anything like that, make sure you have a very dark, all black shoe. Gym shoes, obviously you want comfort since you're going to be on your feet for 5+ hours a night. But yeah, when it comes to that, I hope that most of my actors supply, unless there's a character that really needs something, like a Charlie, for instance. We do. When it comes to Dent, obviously we've got some period stuff that we have to stick with. We shut down, like the school was supposed to be back in the 1950s when you walk through. So we have to watch out for hair. Some of our actresses, they'll actually let their hair go, so then we can kind of put it up in bobs and that kind of old style weave in the back. For those that don't, they just can't get away with it at work, we supply wigs and we'll tease them. That's kind of what makeup takes care of. Some haunts, they'll structure it to where they have just a hair designer, but for us, since some of my makeup artists are so well groomed when it comes to also hair, they take care of that as well. They are. My makeup artists, from me as a haunt owner, I want my makeup artists to be the most beneficial to me. So almost every one of my makeup artists can do hair, can do all the styles of makeup, and acts. So once they're done with all the actors, they will actually get put into makeup. They're usually, they kind of go as like a breaker or a cue line. That way it's things that can kind of filter through. So yeah, most bang for your buck. I refilter them as much as possible.
Throughout the season, while we're up and running, we're looking at what's working, what's not working, and that gives us the basis of what we need to change for the coming year. We usually like to change at least a third of the show each year, just to keep it fresh, to keep people coming back. We felt that if you don't change at least a third of the attraction, people feel the show gets stagnant, and then your attendance will decrease. But the primary way of going about designing each year is, we're a schoolhouse, so we theme it to a schoolhouse each year. So obviously, we want to follow that theme throughout the entire attraction. So it starts with a lot of research, just a lot of going to the library, looking at stuff online, and the way schools were actually designed and laid out back in the 40s and 50s, and just using that as the basis for our scene. And then obviously we'll come in and warp it, twist it to give it a demented horror type feel that fits our janitor theme. And it's kind of evolved. Back in the day when we were on a real tight budget, we used to do a lot of street shopping and a lot of garbage picking. That since has evolved to throughout the winter we'll go to a lot of antique stores, antique auctions. In the spring times they have antique festivals, and that's primarily where we focus on finding props or the different antique areas. Because the problem with the garbage picking is we're trying to build a 1940s to 1950s era schoolhouse. You're not going to find a lot of period pieces like that being thrown out in people's garbage today. So we'll go to the antique stores and we'll find stuff that's all rusted and beat up. For an antique collector, it's junk, so we'll pick them up for a couple bucks here and there. And then Craigslist also, we find a lot of stuff off of Craigslist. It's usually where we find our larger pieces, just because antique stores don't carry huge pieces of equipment, it's more jars and knickknacks. But Craigslist, you can find all kinds of stuff on it. Basis on it, believe it or not, we still design our haunt modularly. We've still got 4x8 flats that just go together with brackets. That's the best way, I'd say, to maximize your design, because stuff changes all the time. And instead of tearing apart stuff, having to redo all your walls from the beginning each year, that gives you your basis, your foundation to work on, to build off of.
Actually, some friends of Josh's happened to know we were looking for a place to have a haunted house, and we had been to this haunt several times, throughout the years, and the scouts had trouble with some of the people getting older and not wanting to do it anymore, so they were looking to sell out, and it was pretty much like being at the right place at the right time. We were lucky enough to find somebody to help us out financially, and I guess it had been in this location for about 12 years, and this will be our 6th season. We ran it with the scouts and saw how they did their operations. Of course, we had both run different yard haunts, which is a much smaller scale and a little easier to do, but that helped out, and then we changed things to what we thought would work, and as far as the actors, it's kind of evolved too, from volunteers to employees, and so it's been a good combination of everything. Just kind of, it still evolves. I mean, there's always changes. It's one thing at this industry, you want to keep up on things, or like you said, you'll fall behind sooner than you think, and be wishing you had some people coming to the door. So we've just been lucky in that respect. Everything's fallen into place, and it's worked out real well for us.
Okay.
I mean, to promote a haunted house correctly, I think first off you got to figure out what kind of haunted house you are. Obviously, our main method would be to push the Dent story. We're unique due to the detail. We're unique because we stick with a theme, and when you step onto the property, you get to relive the story, kind of like similar to a horror movie. From there, once we figured out pretty much what we were, our identity, we pushed that through pretty much every outlet that we have, and we keep with that theme, through our Facebook, through our web. Obviously, we're going through haunt apps to have a phone app. You got to keep up with the technology too. You got to make sure you really you get in your customer's face and you just keep beating them, because if you're not, there's going to be another haunt that's going to be there to beat you. And you got to have a high quality. I mean, our website's top notch. Our Facebook's got to be always up to date. So I mean, you pretty much you got to be there and you got to be throwing out the name. I mean, to come up with an iconic character, you got to find something that's really going to embody your attraction. Charlie is the Dent Schoolhouse. Wherever he goes, he embodies what we are here. And we've noticed that too, like when we take him to events like Riverfest, where there's 500,000 people all around the Tri-State coming. People know that's Charlie from, that's the janitor from the Dent Schoolhouse. So you need to make sure that he is literally a snapshot image of your attraction. Plus, he needs to be able, or she, that item, that thing has to evolve to be able to talk to media, to talk to kids, but to also strike fear in the customers when they're outside and interacting with your icon. So, I mean, it's kind of a big thing, especially if you choose to be an icon each year.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no method to the madness. It's just, like you're referring to Detention Hall. I mean, that was literally at Transworld last year. We had an idea for something we wanted to add here at the schoolhouse as just an add-on to the existing attraction, and just from talking over lunch, it's just something that evolved into a second attraction. Yeah, it's just usually that was an exception, because that was like I said, we're planning on doing an addition to the schoolhouse just to add length to the show, and that changed at Transworld. But normally, in October, while we're up and running, we're talking about throwing out ideas of what we'd like to change for the next year. It's all pretty informal until we kind of sit down and hash stuff out, and then by November, we're going at it.
Yeah, because usually the areas that we change are going to be our oldest scenes, so we know what areas they're going to change out, and so we just kind of discuss what might fit that area, or what would be, if it's like in the beginning of the building or the end, what might work best, and just kind of go from there. A lot of times, with the modular system we talked about earlier, it comes down real quick, and then of course you can reuse those same pieces. So, Josh will put down some 2x4s where we think the walls might want to go, and we'll look at options and maybe just change the 2x4s on the ground so we got a good layout, and just start putting the walls together. And sometimes it's changed.
In that regard, we're really high tech. Yeah. But it works.
Yeah.
You find your system and it works for you.
We use chalk, but then after so many chalk lines, you get confused. So it was easier with the just laying down some 2x4s and checking out a good space, and going from there, really.
And it evolves as we're building. We don't, very rarely do we have a set blueprint of how a scene's going to look right when we get started. Because we're so hands-on as the three owners, it's not like we have to have blueprints and pass on our design ideas to somebody else and just have them create it. We're there creating it on a daily basis, so we just kind of work with it on the fly. We just find that usually works out best for us.
Yeah, if we decide we want to drop a window somewhere, we'll just go ahead and put one in. Or another scare spot, we can just kind of add it here and there. And by the time it's finished, it's the way it is. But you don't know until you're really done with the room how it's going to turn out.
And we're never done. Sketch out stuff, and the feel, the idea of what we're going with, possible layout, stuff like that. But it's not like a Universal Studios full drawn, CAD drafted set.
Yeah, you're not getting the space and what you've drawn out on paper, at least for us. I mean, you have to turn around and change it anyway. So it's really easier for us, I think, to just kind of build it when we're in there and the space.
Like I said, if we weren't so hands-on ourselves, we would have to have those pre-drawn out draftings of exactly this. You can't just tell somebody, I want an auto shop, and they'll create it the way you see it, But when we're here working on it like that, we have a lot better idea of the design because we're involved in it. So.
I mean, when reinventing a haunt, I think it's all dealing with, making sure your product gets better and better is one of the first things. I mean, our animatronics go up a notch, special effects go up a notch, makeup goes up a notch, and so does the acting. I mean, we try to push the envelope every year. I mean, this year we added another third size to the basement. And then, I mean, from there, it's just, we add more detail, we add greater Hollywood special effects, and you just got to keep above the bar. We got to make sure that our stuff is fresh.
Yeah. Well, we you still might be using a library scene, okay, but we'll move it to a different area and we'll make the library better, or the kitchen, or whatever we do. I mean, you got to stick with so many rooms because that's what the school had, but you just try to make them totally different, but you have different scare areas and stuff, so it stays fresh and people seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're only limited to your own imagination. I mean, you can put a twist on a library in 1,000 different ways, give it 1,000 different feels. Still feels like it belongs in a school, but it'll be totally different. I mean, you just look at the basement this year that we've done. We've doubled the size of Charlie's lair down there. That's a great aspect of how our theme allows us to kind of vary a little bit. It's still a schoolhouse, but who's to say what you're going to see in the basement of the schoolhouse? So we can do whatever we want down there. Obviously we're not going to have a UFO scene down there or something like that, but anything that would fit in a basement, we can do. Same with like the vocational classes. Who's to say what they have back then? So you're only limited to your own imagination in creating your scene. Well, literally, this past year we spent 1 week after Halloween cleaning up all our stuff that's outside that we put away for the season, and then by November 10th, we were working on this year. We work several days a week until, now, a week before we open here, we are still working. So it's one of those things, where you just have to learn when to quit, basically.
Well, it's definitely a lifestyle, too. I mean, even when you shut off from the haunt, when you leave, you're still thinking haunt. You'll drive by something like, that's a great idea. Oh, wow, that person's freaky looking. I'm going to incorporate that in one of our characters. So it's not a job. It's definitely a lifestyle.
You have to be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, if you don't love getting up in the morning, bright and early, getting there and being there till the wee hours of the night, you're in the wrong business. You need to just do something else. And it comes down to being passionate. Bottom line.
That's a good question. Yeah, you got to enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot of people involved. You got to like people. And you've got to like to work because there's a lot of work involved. It's, not only, I guess it depends on how other people run theirs, but there's just between keeping everybody in line and making sure you got concessions and gift shops and food for different people, and they're getting their breaks. So it's not for a person that's going to just want to sit around and enjoy the outcome. You got to be hands-on and ready to go.
I'd say compromise, keeping a level head and still having fun. That's why we're all here. We love to haunt. We get paid in screams, and that's why we're here. So it's always keep the fun involved too. Yeah, it's a business, but you're here for a good time too. What did you eat?
A mint.
It did smell like mint. What does that mean?
It's a gang sign.
Was that a gang sign? What is it? Totally kidding. But what is it?
But I don't know what is that.
Well, you can do that too.
That is a real gang sign, actually.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah. That is actually a real gang sign.
J-side.
J-side.
Booyah.
Uptown. J-side.
Are you ready? Nope, not yet, no. So wind's coming in at the wrong way. See, I'm not ready for this test. Who's that behind you? She passed it.
She passed.
It. Nicely done.
It was good.
Proud of you, yeah.
Very
Police project.
Hi, Cameron.
Seen that or not.
Hey, it's always something. As I disappear into the fog.
And we go with the blooper reel. We're gonna cut, and then we're gonna come back, and they're gonna be like, "F***ing house on fire behind them or something."
Anything else that you want to throw in there?
Make sure you check out huntersdigest.com for more.
God,